moving on to our motivation theories. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So this is one of the motivation theories that is listed in study design. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is essentially where human needs are arranged on a hierarchy, and it's the unsatisfied need above a person in the hierarchy that is the source of motivation. And we'll go through this a little bit more. Like there's a whole diagram to explain the hierarchy of needs, but it's just based on human needs, and all of those needs need to be filled in sequential order in order to be a source of motivation. All right, then we have Locke and Latham's goal setting theory. So this is where motivation is derived from setting and attaining goals. So this is all goal based. So it's more of goals being a source of motivation. And goals must be challenging, set jointly, specific, monitored, and given feedback. But yeah, those are sort of all of the different elements in the creation of goals. Then we have Lawrence and Nohria's four drive theory. This essentially is where it suggests that motivation is derived from four basic needs that act to drive people. And these drives are the drive to acquire, bond, learn, and defend. Okay, now we're going to be looking a little bit more closely into all of these different motivation theories. So the first motivation theory, Maslow, these are the key principles of we'll go through all of the key principles of this motivation theory. So the hierarchy of needs is Maslow's representation of human needs in the form of a pyramid, ranging from the least fundamental at the bottom and most fundamental at the top. An employee is based on the hierarchy based on what needs they have already fulfilled. So remember how I said it's all about fulfilling them in sequential order. And so depending on what needs the employee has already had fulfilled, they're going to be placed on the hierarchy. The employee is motivated to achieve the unsatisfied need above them in the hierarchy. Once they achieve that need, they can move up the hierarchy. So again, coming to the idea that all of them need to be fulfilled in that sequential order. So these are all of the needs in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So the most bottom one, so the first one is the physiological needs. And then we have the safety needs, we have social needs, esteem needs, and then self-actualization needs. So you can kind of tell, like, as you progress up that pyramid, it gets a little bit more deeper, a little bit more, it increases in importance. So an example of them being fulfilled in sequential order. So an employee cannot strive to meet its social needs if its physiological and safety needs are not met. So all of the employees have to make sure that the needs below a particular need are fulfilled in order for them to, have that need filled. I said a lot of needs in that one sentence, sorry, but you get the idea. So they have to really start from the bottom to the top. So they can only have this self-actualization needs filled if they've, satisfied all of these ones below it. All right. Some examples. So physiological needs. This is essentially providing employees with appropriate wages that allow them to meet their physiological needs. So water, food, shelter. So it can literally be as simple as, in the work environment, having a kitchen so that employees have access to fresh and cold water. Or, having access to a AC unit or a conditioning, a heating and cooling unit so that, they feel comfortable in that working environment. So it's all about the physical sort of things in their environment so that they can feel safe. Then we have our safety needs. This is all about sort of their actual safety. Some examples could be job security and having a safe environment that complies with occupational health and safety standards. So making sure that, the ceiling is not, half hanging, or, they have an actual like carpeted floor, which, it's just like it's all safe, it's all intact. There's nothing that's loose that they could trip over, um, or hurt themselves. So making sure that the actual work environment complies with occupational health and safety standards and even their job security. So they shouldn't be constantly at the risk of losing their job. Like the manager shouldn't threaten them with their job security. So they should feel safe that they have security, and they'll be able to continue earning that income. Then we have our social needs. So this is all about the interactions between employees in the workplace. So ensuring that there's friendly associates, there's collaborative tasks, providing opportunities for employees to work with each other, get to know each other, and even having a positive corporate culture. So maybe going out for rituals, having morning teas every Thursday morning, or having Friday lunches. Yeah, sort of having like these little rituals that allow employees to engage with each other and meet each other. Then we have our esteem needs. So these are sort of examples of these could be, having a promotion, job titles, extra responsibilities, access to prestigious facilities, everything that would really like boost your self-esteem or like, yeah, help you feel a little bit more confident, in your job. So if you get promoted, you feel, that whatever you're doing is working and it's adequate and you're actually capable, and you feel empowered. And then we have self-actualization, and this is, having some sort of challenging creative work, provided the opportunities for personal growth, really looking at the employee trying to achieve their potential. Yeah. All right, now we're looking at Locke and Latham. So these are the 5 key sort of components to the goals, and this theory. So challenging, it's important that there is that challenge because that requires hard work, demands motivation, and then also a sense of achievement is gained from achieving a challenging goal, and that sort of helps to drive them to continue achieving goals. So it's really important that the goal is challenging. It's also important for goals to be set jointly. So employees and manager develop goals together, so that the manager can work with employees to ensure that the goals that the employee is working towards is relevant for them and is sort of worthwhile their time and energy. It means that goals are specific for employees and therefore they're more likely to motivate them. Then we have being specific. So goals should really just be defined. They shouldn't be vague or general, because that just means that if they're defined, the employee knows, exactly where to direct their energy and what's expected of them. They're not sort of wasting time being like, oh, how do I do this? Like, what does it mean? They know exactly what to do, and they can sort of develop a plan to achieve that goal a little bit more specifically. Then monitored. So it's important for goals to be monitored. So manager is generally more responsible for keeping track of employees' progress towards the goal over time. They should also support employees who fall behind in the progress. So, trying to motivate them, come up with strategies to motivate employees to continue striving for those goals and achieving those goals. Also given feedback. So not receiving recognition could demotivate the employees. So it's really important for the manager to provide feedback and advise employees on how to sort of improve their performance in the future. So what could they do differently, to improve their performance down the line? Okay, so all of these principles are sort of kind of connected, and it's like a cycle. So, challenging and being specific kind of relates to it being said jointly, and then that sort of has a flow-on effect to being monitored and given feedback. So it's like a cycle. Yeah. All right. Lawrence and Nohria's 4 drive theory. So this essentially proposes that individuals are motivated to achieve 4 basic needs, known as drives. And these drives must be met simultaneously and in balance. So what are these 4 drives? The first one is the drive to acquire, the drive to bond, the drive to learn, and the drive to defend. So looking more closely at these 4 drives, The drive to acquire. This is so businesses can sort of appeal to this drive by rewarding individual employees with praise, recognition, and interesting assignments. And it's also done through performance management. So it's all about the drive to acquire is all about sort of, um, I guess, progressing in the business and, you know, trying to do, be the best, I guess. So that's done by if the business is, rewarding employees with praise, giving them some sort of recognition and interesting assignments. That's going to appeal to their drive to acquire. But also through performance management. So maybe they might, you know, um, give them some feedback around the performance, saying that, okay, what could you do this? What could you do differently? And then that employee is now motivated to, you know, meet those, sort of take on that feedback so that they can perform a lot better. Then we have the drive to bond. It is all about, the social aspect of an employee's desire and trying to, meet people, create those relationships within the business. And so some ways that a business could meet this drive is encouraging teamwork and setting collaborative tasks, even just like holding celebratory events and rituals. So having some sort of um, event or, these rituals which allow all employees to, bond with each other, build relationships with each other that would all, satisfy their social needs. And then that drive to bond. It's actually very similar to the social needs in the Maslow's hierarchy of theory, if we're kind of comparing between them. And then even maintaining a culture of team spirit, openness, and pride. Drive to learn. So ensures that tasks are interesting and challenging. So yeah, if tasks are interesting and challenging, employees are inevitably going to learn something different from them. Ways how to do a particular task. If it's something that they haven't done before, that would be a challenge to them. They might be working with someone and learning a lot from them. And so that essentially, stimulates employees. It's not sort of a boring thing which they already know how to do. If they're given a task which is something different, has a bit of challenge, it's going to like mentally sort of stimulate them. Also offering training opportunities. So any opportunity which allows the employee to learn, it would satisfy the drive to learn. So training, they're being upskilled, they're being learning something new about their duties or roles, or learning how to do it more efficiently, or in a better manner, that can fulfill that drive to learn. The drive to defend is a latent drive. So that just means it's only activated when there is a threat in the workplace. And so ways that a business could um, prevent the drive to defend, prevent employees. Oh my God, how do I say? Oh, the ways that a business could prevent the activation of the drive to defend is using our positive management style, implement policies for dispute resolution, and just building a supportive workplace. So if the employee feels supported in their workplace, they would have no reason to, defend themselves or have that drive activated. So that's probably a really good one. It's just having a supportive workplace, having a good corporate culture. All right. And then we have all of our motivation strategies. So for each of the motivation strategies, we need to know the impact it has on short term and long term motivation. And so, performance related pay is essentially where an employee is financially rewarded based on their performance. And so, that doesn't really appeal to long term motivation, it's more so short term motivation. So, I'll quickly explain short term and long term motivation. Short term motivation, it's just sort of it motivates that employee in the short term, whereas the long term motivation, it's more where the employee is intrinsically motivated, which means that their motivation is more long lasting and thus it's going to motivate them more in the long term. So, since performance related pay involves sort of this extrinsic financial reward, it's just going to provide them with that short term motivation. not so much long-term motivation. Career advancement. This is where employees are given the opportunity to progress up in the career ladder within the business. So they can advance in their career, maybe take on a higher position. If they were just a manager, they might be, a store manager or a senior leader, something like that. And that would work to motivate them both in the short term and long term, just because, especially for the long term, it's sort of appealing to their esteem. And so they're more likely to be committed, and be motivated in the long term because they're um, you know progressing up in the career ladder, they have more responsibility, etc. Then we have investment in training, so literally just training the employee, and that's going to impact both short term and long term motivation. And then we have support. That is all about the business supporting its employees, maybe through mentoring, coaching, providing advice, or even just having like an open door policy where employees can go to the manager at any time and sort of voice their concerns, or have someone to talk to in that sense. All of those components really just help the employee feel supported in their own lives. And so if an employee, even if you have a job, even like if you feel like you're supported by, the business, or, your job, your manager, etc., it's going to make you want to come to work every day. And so works to appeal to both their short-term and long-term motivation. Sanction, this is where there is this threat involved. And so the business would basically say, if you don't do this, or if you don't um, behave in this manner, you will have X, Y, and Z consequence. So it's literally manipulating them, or, having that threat involved. And so that would provide quick and immediate behavioral changes by the employee. Um, so that would impact their short-term motivation. But in the long term, it's not going to really motivate them, because they're going to question, okay, why is the business sort of constantly threatening me? They might even like leave the business, but it's not going to impact their long-term motivation, because if anything, it's just going to impact that relationship employee has with the manager or the business. And so there's going to be a lack of trust. They're going to feel like insecure, not really the best strategy for long-term motivation.